That's the way you got to stand with all your might. To the bell, drop the knife, rebels rise, hear the sound, metal echoes all around.
Hey, what is up, everyone?
Yes.
Welcome to a special edition of Metalheads Unite. Very special to us, by the way. I don't know if we've talked to Nige about this yet, but we most certainly will. But it's special time, of course, because we're accommodating for our guest over in the UK. So,
and then having. And then a special time because we don't know how to do math.
So exactly.
we thought we were starting 2 hours ago. Come to find out that the time difference wasn't as great as we initially thought.
Right.
We just went through daylight savings time, and so all this stuff. So the time difference is a little bit narrower than we thought. So we ended up having to come back at noon. We were ready to start at 10. We had to come back at noon. So we'll get this shit right one of these days. We're going overseas,
I don't know if we haven't done it by 5 years. There's probably no hope for us, but
may not be. May not be.
All right. Well, so without further ado, a lot of you people have known the story of how this show came about, and this is really an honor for us to have the main reason we've started doing this. The band that actually got us into doing this is to get them as a guest on the show is awesome. So
which also means that everyone who's been watching the show for any length of time is going to hear this story again. So,
exactly. Yeah.
So we apologize for that, but you're going to hear the story again because we have to tell it to the member of the band that started this whole thing. So
exactly.
He's got to know the history, just like you guys have had to hear it umpteen times. So I mean, just hang in there because you're going to hear it one more time.
All right, so we'll bring him in as the only original member left, of course, and guitarist for the band Onslaught, Nige Rocket. We'll bring him in here.
Yes.
Hey, Nige.
Nige, welcome in, man.
Hey, guys.
We, like I said, we'll start out by telling the story. Is me and Chris. I was already doing a podcast. It was just kind of an everyday podcast. They were just talking about everyday events and stuff. And we had a campfire. We do fire pits every Friday or Saturday when the weather allows. So we were listening to some music, and I think it was right before the Generation Antichrist album came out.
I think it was actually after because the album came out the first week of August back in 2020. So I think I think it was a little closer to maybe Labor Day. Okay. So it would have been around the first week of September because I remember it was a little cooler.
I do remember the song that we were like, oh, who is this? It was Strike Fast, Strike Hard.
Yep. And
we were like, oh, who in the hell is this? And we got to looking up and it said Onslaught, and we was like, oh, we never heard of those guys. And it was funny when we looked up and said, how in the hell are we like big time metalheads and never heard of these guys and they've been around since the 80s? It just blew my mind of how that happens. And of course, don't get me wrong, there's probably hundreds of bands in the world that we've never heard of because of being in America, and a lot of the good bands are over there. So unfortunately, not saying all, but most of them. But yeah, so it was one of those things where we were like, okay, who are these guys? And then we'd look it up and then realize these guys have been around for, close to 40 years at that time. And it kind of blew our minds that we had never heard. And like, as soon as we did, we started backtracking and listening to like all the catalog. And it was like, dude, how did we not know about these guys? They're so freaking awesome, So it was.
How these things have slipped through the net sometimes.
Yeah, so that was kind of it was kind of born out of the frustration for the fact that, like Jason said, being like lifelong metalheads like we have been, there's no, and since, Headbangers Ball has been long since gone. So we decided to kind of take things into our own hands. It's like, well, if we can't get coverage that we think metal deserves here in the United States, I guess we're going to try to do the best we can to do that. And so missing out on the bulk of your guys' career, of course, we decided that it was like, all right, we're going to start a show of our own, and we're going to try to do the same thing. Is like, we're going to try to do over here what we think should be done. And, of course, you guys have long been established over there in the UK, but obviously that didn't translate into the amount of coverage over here that there should have been. So that's kind of like that was the perspective we've taken with this show. You know, either covering bands over here in the United States that haven't gotten the coverage, whether it be because they're up and coming, they're new, or like you guys over there in the UK and Europe and India, South America, Australia, all the places that we have since been to. We're like, all right, you know, we're going to take up the mantle and we're going to do that. So, you know,
That's very cool.
yeah. So that's how the Metalheads Unite podcast was born, because thanks to Spotify, and that's the only reason why actually there's like a new, and something that we actually do now, but at the time when we were just hanging out at Jason's house around the fire, you know, there was like a weekly brand new metal playlist, and Strike Fast, Strike Hard was on it. So that was one of the songs that stuck out to us, you know. So after hearing Strike Fast, Strike Hard, obviously we did a little bit of, you know, looking into the new album, Generation Antichrist, and then, you know, Bow Down to the Clowns and everything else. And then, you know, it just went from there. And I'd have to look back, but I don't remember at this. I remember that both of us had the album in our top 10 at the end of the year. I do remember that. I don't remember where the album finished, to be completely honest with you, because we're going on.
Oh, it was in the top 5, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're going on 4.5 years of music between then and now. But yeah, that album ended up being one of our top albums of the year, but without question.
Awesome.
So I guess first thing I want to ask is, well, I mean, like I said, thank you for joining us on the show. I mean, we've been talking about you guys basically. I mean, ever since the inception of this show. I mean, we've mentioned you guys numerous times. Like I say, we've told the story about how we discovered you guys and all this stuff, and that's what led to the show. But I mean, you know, we've talked you guys up many times, and when Curtis sent us the email talking about the upcoming Origins of Aggression that we'll talk about here in a minute, I told him kind of the whole backstory, and he was like, "Well, you know, would you guys like to have an interview?" We couldn't jump at the chance fast enough to have you guys on the show. So I mean, it was kind of one of those things where it was almost kind of a full circle kind of thing that we never really saw coming. So thanks to Curtis for working that out. Like I say, thank you, Nige, for coming on the show, taking time out of your Saturday to come hang out with us.
That's a pleasure.
Yeah. So first thing, want to ask, you know, we'll get to the music part in a minute, but in case anybody doesn't know, I mean, you're kind of back playing music live after going through some things. So first thing, how are you feeling, Nige?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm still not back 100% right now. But I played my first show back on 70,000 Tons of Metal Cruise end of January. That was the first show back for 3 years. It was a little weird. Kind of forgetting what you're meant to do on stage, you know. And I'm just looking forward to the next one now, just to get that feeling back and just kind of start finding my feet again on stage, if you like.
Right.
All the illnesses are cleared up now, thankfully. But because of the nature of what happened and how long I was away, I kind of lost a hell of a lot of fitness and a hell of a lot of muscle mass, you know. So it's an ongoing situation to sort of get fit again.
Yeah, because I mean, with the operation you had on your back, I'm sure that took a lot of time to recover from, to where you could get all your full range of motion back to play and everything.
Yeah. I mean, when it happened, we were on stage in a festival in Belgium.
Oh my god!
And I felt my arms start going kind of strange and getting really tired, and I could hardly reach the end of my guitar neck, you know. Then the next few days, things went really downhill, and I kind of virtually lost the use of both arms.
Oh.
Yeah, particularly my left one. And we just couldn't figure out what it was. I went to the the doctors, and they said I trapped a tendon or torn a tendon or something. But still nothing. They didn't come up with any other solutions. Luckily, there's a guy near me who's a chiropractor, a very, very clever guy. So I went and visited him, and he told me immediately what the situation was. He said, "You've got a trapped nerve in your spine. You need to get it scanned, etc., which we did. Proved it was a trapped nerve, and then it was just a waiting game to find a surgeon and get the operation done. You know.
Yeah.
So that took about over a year to get that done. And even then, they guaranteed that I could only possibly get like 30% use of my arms back,
Wow.
which is kind of worrying, you know.
Yeah.
But they did the operation. They slashed my throat across there. Went in through the front, took some of the your disc away, chiseled the disc away, and put in a metal cage into my neck. So that relieves all the pressure on the nerves that go outwards to your arms. You know? And the operation was a success. I reckon I've got at least 60-70% back at the moment, I think. So their predictions were, obviously, I guess they take the more negative side just in case.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's just a case of getting the muscle memory back.
Right.
I had a jam today, actually. It felt one of the best I've been with my guitar since it's happened. So
That's
some
good
of,
news. So.
some of it's
Yeah.
definitely coming back. So that's the main thing.
Yeah. When was the operation? Was it last year?
No, I had two operations. I had one on my upper spine,
Right.
which was work it backwards, right? Year before last.
Okay.
It was kind of weird because as soon as I had that operation done, I felt so much better in my shoulders and my arms. And then I got this problem in my lower back where I could hardly use my right leg. So whether it was a kind of knock-on effect from what had happened above, but I had the same thing at the bottom of my spine, trapping a nerve that went out to
okay.
my right legs.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which I had the operation for that in October last year. So, and that's
Okay. So
that's
about 6 months ago. Okay.
yeah, that's been great. All the pain's gone because some of the pain was horrendous.
Yeah, I actually have some issues going on in my lower back. I've got a remnants of a hockey injury that never healed right. And I've actually gone through all of the steps that the doctors wanted me to go through, with the exception of surgery. I actually went to a surgeon in Nashville, and he wanted to basically start all the way at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I said the hell with that. So, I mean, it's just, at this point, it's just learning how to live with it and pain management, really. But it's frustrating because, like, yeah, some days, I mean, there's pain every day, but some days it's just my same thing. My right leg is on fire. Some days
more excruciating than others.
Yeah, so some days can't stand up straight, stuff like that. So I mean, it's frustrating, but
it's amazing because we don't really like pay attention to a lot of like a nerve. You know, I mean, it's amazing what a nerve can do in your body. Just one nerve, it's like crazy.
Yeah.
And we don't think about it until something happens to us, and we're like,
right.
So,
yeah. But thankfully, that's behind me now. So,
well, that's good.
That's great news, man.
We're glad to hear that. So. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. And was happy to hear that you were able to get back up on stage for 70,000 tons of metal. So that's a good thing. So
that's awesome.
So, but what is the next thing? Is there a next? I'm sure there is a next thing coming up. So I mean, is anything coming up relatively soon that you're going to be playing?
Yeah. We got a festival in Portugal on April 19th.
Okay.
Nice.
That's the next show. Then we got a few warm-up dates in Bonnie, Scotland, just to the north of us. 3 shows out there as a warm-up for our European tour, which is starting, I think, on May 25th, something like that. So
nice.
Then things kind of get busy then. So.
Yeah, because you guys.
When was the last time you guys were actually in the States?
Was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. Let me see. 2022.
I was going to say, I don't think it had been like super long ago, but I knew it had been a few years. But
no, because we've done the California, Maryland Death Fest.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I was just looking because we got inducted into the Metal Hall of Fame in Maryland.
That's
I got
awesome, dude.
I got the award on my desk, so it's got the date on it.
Well,
But
that
hey, at
was
least you got something that can remind you quickly right there.
yeah. That was but hell. That was
We were due to be over last week for Hell's Heroes Festival, but our work visas didn't arrive in time.
I saw that.
Man, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
So frustrating. 3 of the guys got their visas 2 days before, and me and Wayne, we didn't receive ours until the beginning of this week. So
Oh,
We,
man,
we
that sucks.
and it's funny because we've actually heard that happen a lot from overseas bands.
Yep.
I know, like when we talked to Hidden Intent, was it Hidden Intent? Like 2 of them were here and one of them got stuck. And
Yeah.
had to like come over like 2 days later after the tour had already started.
Yeah, Chris
So they
had
had
to. Yeah, Chris had to basically. He had to jump through a bunch of hoops to get his expedited.
Right,
He had
that's
to
what-
he had to like pay some extra money and all that stuff, and they managed to get over. But yeah, Chris had to jump through a bunch of shit just
Because
to
they
get
had told
his
him it was going to be
ticket.
like 2 weeks, and he said, "Well, hell, the tour will be over then." You know, it's like,
Right. Yeah.
I don't know why people just don't plan a little more ahead, because our management's been asking for these visas to process to start since last October. If it was started last October, we'd have been fine. But it's crazy. I mean, we didn't have interviews until like 3 weeks ago, which was basically 2 weeks before the flights were.
Right. Yeah.
So I think just get your act together and do it earlier. But we had no say in that, you see.
yeah, we can attest that we do not have the fastest system when it comes to things like that here in the
No.
States.
No, we
No,
don't.
but you've got to give yourself half a chance to get these things because there's a lot of red tape involved.
Yeah, that is true.
It's a bit harsh doing it 2 weeks before. But
Yeah.
anyway,
But I mean, you guys obviously gave them plenty of time, though. That's kind of a
I mean, we've got our work visas now. We've got 3-year work visas, so we should.
okay, cool.
We're cool for any American shows that come our way from now on. So.
And we're ready for you. So.
Oh my god.
So if we have to make a road trip, we're going to definitely get to an Onslaught show. So.
I was about to say I'll miss work. I have vacation time, but I'll miss work. I'll take a vacation day.
Right.
I'll drive. I'll take out a fucking personal loan to. You guys get back. You guys get back over here at some point, and you'll see us. You'll see us in the crowd at least once, depending on how close you are. So.
Well,
they automatically went on my list to see as soon as we found out about them. I'm like, oh yeah, we got to check these guys out live. So
no, absolutely, it was. I mean, Onslaught damn near went right to the top of the bucket list at that point.
And I wanted to ask about. I know you guys just now signed over to the new label, the Reigning Phoenix
RPM.
or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. So just kind of like backtracking. Is there was like there differences in the old label to what you're experiencing now, or was it just kind of a thing that you just felt like you guys needed a new start with a fresh label, or?
Well, basically, our contract had come to an end with AFM, and the 2 main guys at Reigning Phoenix, which is Niels and Jochen, were both at AFM.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So we'd renewed our deal with AFM. On some much improved terms, which was fantastic. But then I think a few months later, it turned out that this new label was forming, which was Reigning Phoenix, and Niels and Jochen were both leaving AFM to form this new label, which was like, oh no, it's like our 2 big allies had left the label.
Right.
And AFM was basically now. There was nobody left that we knew there, so we had no real inside support for the label. And we heard things were changing with the way that they were going to be working, etc. So, and we just signed a brand new 4 or 5 album contract, which was kind of harsh. So I called up Niels and spoke to him. I said, look, you guys interested in re-signing Onslaught to RPM? if we can negotiate off of AFM. We said, yeah, of course. Because obviously they just signed us to AFM. So then we had to set about a long process, talking to AFM and doing some deals. They would let us out of our contract because we were the kind of band that they didn't really, under their new kind of system that they were going to be working with, we didn't really fit into their scheme of things. So it was made sense to let us go, which we eventually got sorted. I think tail end of last year, and we signed up for Rain in Phoenix straight after. So we're super stoked for that. Obviously, to be back working with the people that we know and trust.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And they've been great so far. I mean, it's only early days yet, but they've been absolutely fantastic.
Well, we've said this on the show a few times, man. I mean, I don't know if Curtis even sleeps at this point because he's always like sending us stuff, and it's just amazing to see that much promotion going out with with any band, much less somebody of your guys' tenure. So it's cool. I mean, he's given us, like, matter of fact, he sent us some stuff of a new band we never heard of. This was their debut album coming out the end of April, and I said, hey, when it gets closer, we want to get these guys on to try to help promote their album and stuff because, like I said, they're doing a really good job over there, and it's pretty much like, I think even with the last band we interviewed on the label, they kept, he kept promoting stuff, and then 2 weeks later he was promoting some more, all the way up until the time the album actually came out. So I mean, they're definitely doing, staying up to date with the pushing stuff and getting everything out there. So kudos to them. And I guess that makes sense now that you say those guys that started the label came from AFM and are very experienced and with what they're doing. So.
They got a massive wealth of experience, and enthusiasm. And I was like, when I was on the phone to Neil's discussing the possibility of signing Onslaught, he was in the office. He turned around and shouted out, "Hey guys, can we sign Onslaught?" And everybody was like, "Yeah!" It was kind of nice that you've got the backing of all the people in the label, So.
Yeah, yeah. That's like, I think that's like I mean, it seems like that's kind of one of the hard things these days, and that's why you have a lot of DIY bands here in the States, is because there's not a lot of labels here that are doing the work that people like Curtis and stuff are doing with those labels. I know we get like at least 3 different labels that we have on. Scarlet Records is one, I think, and then I don't remember the other one right off the top of my head, but
well, we've got. Hold on a second. I actually just had our email opening. We got Purple Sage PR.
Purple Sage, that's the one.
Yeah, we got Scarlet Records. We got Purple Sage, and then we've got C Squared Music, of course. That's Curtis. He's at C Squared Music, doing it. The stuff for art on behalf of RPM, so he's doing that for them. Of course, the thing, we got Corinne, we have Corinne, Curtis, and I think Angelo. So we got 3 people from C Squared. I mean, they are forever sending us stuff. I mean, that's how we ended up interviewing Brainstorm last month, is because Curtis sent us. Well, actually, when did Curtis send us that? But I mean, Curtis sent us Brainstorm's new album like way ahead of time. So we had probably about 2 months notice on Brainstorm's new album. So, and then of course, let's see, it's been 2-3 weeks since Curtis sent us Origins of Aggression. He sent that to us. We've had a chance to listen to that and digest it for the last couple weeks leading up to today and everything. So they've been super duper active sending us stuff, and
that's really good to know. That's really good.
Yeah, and for us it's awesome because working with the labels that we are working with, and the funny thing is they actually, because what you see here is what the Metalheads Unite podcast is. It's me and Jason, and that's it. That's all there is. That's all we're working with. It's just the 2 of us and the equipment that we have and the time that we have to do it. And the funny thing is like the labels that we're working with, they've actually found us. So it's not like we've gone out and was like, hey, this is who we are. We'd like to work together. They've actually found us, which is awesome that they have. But I mean, the attention that they've shown the bands that they're working with, and the willingness to work with us. Like I say, we're just a couple of guys with a podcast, sending us, the music that they've been sending us, letting us talk to the bands that we've gotten to talk to, so treating we can only imagine if they're treating us the way they're treating us. We're not clients of theirs.
Right.
So we can only imagine how well you guys are being treated. So
it's been amazing so far. Can't fault anything at all.
Well, and I mean, and RPM, and we touched on this when we were talking to Brainstorm. I mean, RPM, they've put together one hell of a roster.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking Kerry King and Meshuggah and Amorphous. Brainstorm is, Brainstorm, Deicide.
Nudo on that label too.
Yeah.
And Lordy, I think.
Yeah.
Lordy's on there.
Yes.
Opeth is on there. Ordinogan, Primal Fear.
Crazy.
So I mean, and
Halloween maybe as well.
Halloween.
Now you guys are on there.
Dang,
so
man.
I mean,
they're killing it, man.
They are.
Yeah, it's what we looked at when we were looking to sign with them, and looked at the roster and, well, this is the place, it's cool, and it's where we want to be.
Yeah, seemed like you guys fit right in with a lot of the bands that are on there. So, I think that's one thing too, that if I was in a band, I would look at is like, okay, if these guys are going to promote, they would probably want to promote a show too. So, is there guys on there that would fit with us to make a great show, a live show? So, because I know a lot of labels do that. They try to keep their people kind of touring together. So,
yeah, of course, it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the dream lineups that could be put together with just the bands on this roster page is ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, some dream concerts for us for sure.
I'm telling you what, because I mean, there's bands on this roster page that not only have been around for quite a while. I mean, several decades. I mean, hell, with you guys and Primal Fear, Udo's been around since the 70s, of course. Sebastian Bach. So I mean, there's a lot. What's that?
I said there's some killer stuff on the label.
Yeah, there's some great stuff, and some bands that have, like I say, have been around for a while. So they like you know what you're looking for when you're signing with somebody. So, but the more that RPM's lineup expands, it just lends credence to the integrity that they seem. They're building a reputation for sure.
Yeah, very, very good.
So while we're on the subject, I know so we talked a little bit about the upcoming album Origins of Aggression that's going to be out in May 23rd. I noticed like a lot of that stuff was kind of re-recorded, and then some of that stuff is covers as well. Was that just kind of a thing that you guys wanted to have as far as like an introduction to the new label, or was that always in the plans to do this album at this point? Or
there's a few points behind why we did what we did. Part of that was down to my absence for a while, and limiting to what I could play once I got picking up a guitar again. Obviously, the 40-year anniversary of Power from Hell played a big part in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought, I mean, the initial thought that springs to mind is, let's re-record Power from Hell, because we're a completely different band now, completely different vocalists, and
absolutely.
Let the fans hear, and our new set of fans hear how the band sounds performing that old material. So that was the initial train of thought, was to re-record that.
Not to mention, a lot of the recordings and stuff have changed over 40 years. So I mean, you get a lot more crisp and stuff with stuff now than you could 40 years ago. So.
But then I had a few discussions with some kind of important people I know who are massive fans of that particular album, and they were begging me not to re-record it.
Oh no!
just because they'd grown up with it and how they felt about that album, and they were kind of worried about how it would sound re-recorded. So, kind of cast a few little seeds of doubt in my head about what we should do, and then we sort of sat down and come up with this other brainstorm of an idea, which was to let the fans see where Onslaught came from its conception in 1982, and how the Power from Hell album actually would have been influenced and where that album came from. So I decided, and then just think of all the covers that we did over the years, what we jammed at rehearsal, which was a lot, because it was always good to learn songs and improve your playing when you're playing other people's songs, and songs I played at home to improve my own playing. There was a lot of interesting stories as to the cover version, so we thought, yeah, that's a cool idea. And then, okay, let's do 1982 to 1989 of Onslaught with obviously Dave, our new vocalist, or not say new vocalist now, and this current lineup, and I think that was everybody was much more welcome into that than re-recording the Power from Hell album, because we still got I think 3 tracks from Power from Hell on there, and some tracks on the Force and in Search of Sanity. So I think it kind of gives the fans a bigger picture of where we came from and where it went in those early days, you know.
Yeah, well, the good thing is anybody who didn't want you to record Power from Hell, they can still listen to it. It's on Spotify, so they can still go ahead and listen to the origin of Onslaught all they want to. So
Yeah.
That was kind of gonna be my next question. Has any of those guys heard the re-recorded version yet, or
Not yet.
okay?
They will do, because one of the guys, he was a massive fan of the band back in the day. He's the managing director of a massive distribution company in the UK. So he's distributing the album in the UK for Rain in Phoenix. So he'll be hearing it soon.
Okay.
nice.
I'd be kind of interested in to get their feedback on.
Yeah.
On
So
that.
would I.
So,
I'm sure he's going to be really cool about it, because he said, look, guys, you got to do this song and you got to cover that song.
You got some requests.
yeah. Once I told him we weren't re-recording Power from Hell, he was happy and like, okay, do this.
so speaking of which, the first single just dropped from all that. I guess the Iron Fist, which is a cover of Motorhead. So an awesome job, by the way. I'm not the hugest Motorhead fan, but I do know, like, I'm one of those people that if I hear certain bands that hit, like Motorhead could, of course they're not going to, but if Lemmy was still alive and they came out with a new song tomorrow, I could probably, the first couple of riffs, I'd be like, yeah, that's Motorhead.
Of course.
You could automatically know. They have that distinct kind of sound to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you guys really did that song justice. So,
Thank you.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's I mean, we've stayed true to the originals on all the covers, because they're extremely important to me and the band, and I don't think you can fuck with classics, basically. So we didn't really do too much. We didn't try to tear things apart and reconstruct them.
Right.
We just played them in the Onslaught style and recorded them with a newer sound, So I wouldn't dream of touching any of those songs, but
I think when bands kind of cover some songs and try to put their own spin on them, it's kind of a real risk anyway.
Yeah,
so
it can be. Yeah,
especially with if you got something as somebody trying to cover old 80s Metallica nowadays, a lot of older school Metallica fans would probably be like, what the hell are they doing? Because it's not, a prime example is we was just listening to a song yesterday, August Burns Red actually redid Chop Suey, which is, August Burns Red and System of a Down are 2 totally different bands. So when they did that, my wife was just like, oh yeah, that don't work. And I said, well, it's because they're 2 totally different bands, and they're trying to make do it in their style, which is sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. Oh, there's Curtis popping in.
Curtis is in the chat. What's up, man?
Appreciate you.
What is
Curtis.
going on?
He's eavesdropping.
The man, well, hey, he's
anyway, we're like over the moon with the the Iron Fist cover, and the response has been absolutely incredible. So it's all good on that front.
Well, the cool thing, the cool thing for me is when I listen to it. Obviously, you know, it's got the two parts, and listening to how everything was re-recorded. You know, all of the Onslaught songs was awesome. But the cool thing for me, kind of like a little bit of a bonus, is I wasn't even 100% familiar with all of the songs that you guys covered. So some of those
Right.
songs are actually technically new to me because I mean I don't
Exactly,
even
yeah.
because I didn't even know because you did 12 covers and I don't even know all 12 of the originals. So that's so full disclosure. So yeah, but I mean, obviously about half of them I do, so I recognized them right away. But there were some of them that I was like, I'm not even sure I've even heard the original of this. So I mean, it was kind of an extra bonus for me, even though they were cover songs. There were some of those songs that I probably have heard for the first time that you guys had covered them. So it was like a nice little extra bonus from a personal standpoint. But you know, so you know, it wasn't. So you know, 22 songs altogether, but you know, 10 Onslaught and then 12 covers. So,
So I noticed like the War Pigs on there, and when I seen that, I kind of think it's like, you know what? I don't know if I've ever heard anybody like do a bad version of War Pigs. I mean,
No, I mean we kind of listened to versions that have been done and sort of seeing if people were taken away from the original, but it's not really been fucked about with too much. Again, this is my theory of don't fuck with a classic song, you know.
right, yeah,
So we really didn't do too much to that.
yeah.
Just gave it a little bit of onslaught and just a tad faster, you know.
I did notice that, yeah. But then again, you guys don't really know how to play slow.
We did a little slow when we were playing it, so we had to nudge it up a little bit.
Yeah, so
I mean, that's one of the things we love about them, though.
no, exactly. That, yeah, no, that's 100%. That's 100% true.
Well, it gives it a whole new energy, I think.
Yeah, it totally does. It totally does. But and like you said, you know, you didn't alter. I mean, there's really no alteration to any of the songs as far as I can tell. Like you say, that's you guys were paying homage to, you know, what brought you up, and that's what I like. That's what I like about covers by and large is people are actually most of the time. I'm speaking in general terms, of course. You know, people are usually, you know, paying tribute to a musical influence in their life, and that's what I like.
I mean,
it's good.
We wouldn't have been here without these songs, you know.
Exactly.
To go and mess around with it would be kind of criminal to me.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question is going to be, I know, like, it surprised me when I was reading up on you guys to try to get ready for this interview. I had forgotten about the early days of Onslaught and how you guys kind of started out as a hardcore punk band and then kind of switched to thrash. So what was the mindset on switching that around? And I know you guys probably still incorporate some hardcore punk because a lot of metal bands still do. I mean,
Yep.
Oh yeah, I mean the first two tracks on the Onslaught side of the double album are the first two songs we ever wrote. Thermonuclear Devastation and Black Horse of Famine. That was the very first two songs that we put together, and that's why they're opening that album up. I mean, the main point is I and myself and Paul Hill, who formed the band with me back in '82, we used to travel around the UK watching all these live punk bands. Just jump on a train or a coach or whatever, hitchhike however we could get there, and go watch all these bands. Sleep rough or sleep in anywhere you could find to sleep. And we got to know the guys in the bands, and we'd get in on the guest list because they know we're traveling and stuff. I guess we did that for around a year, 18 months, and then we were kind of like, well, we love this so much. Why aren't we making our own band? Should we make our own band? So, yeah, great idea, but there's a slight problem with that. Is can't play no instruments. There's a kind of bit of a drawback in it.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get some instruments. So we went and bought some real cheap, shitty guitars. And then there was a local gig. You may have heard of them, you may not. I think they did kind of well in America back in the day. band called Vice Squad. Um, and I seen them at a local gig and got chatting to the guitarist after. And it turned out he lived just half a mile down the road from me. So he said, "Oh, come down next week. We'll have a coffee. I'll show you some stuff. Bring your guitar down, and I'll just show you the basics." We did that 4 or 5 times, and that was it. I was away, and all I wanted to do then was play guitar and listen to tracks and learn to play tracks, which hence a lot of the stuff on the cover side of the album were tracks that I learned to play guitar from, you know? And that's their relevance within this double album. So hard. I worked hard every day, sometimes 6, 8 hours, 10 hours a day, just playing and practicing.
Yeah.
And that's how we improved. We improved very quickly. Obviously, Power from Hell is kind of rough and ready, quite raw. But the difference then to the Force was a kind of big step, and then next to In Search of Sanity was a massive leap. It was just a natural progression with how we learned to play. Obviously, we were massively into punk, but we were also into the metal stuff, Venom, Motorhead, things like that. And then I guess 83, 84, bands like Metallica and Anthrax were coming through, and bringing a whole new kind of sound to metal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just felt like as we were learning to become better musicians and songwriters, it allowed us to expand our horizons on the musical front, you know, which is exactly what we did.
Yeah. I think you can, talking about the first couple songs on the first album, on Power from Hell, I think you can definitely hear kind of like the metamorphosis from the punk and then the thrash metal taking over, but then you definitely get a sense of, I guess coming of age, like you were talking about, when as Power from Hell ends, and then you get into the Force and then In Search of Sanity, like you say, kind of really was when Onslaught basically came into their own. You know, you became you basically, you know, because talking about the you know, the songs that alluded to the covers that basically taught you how to play more or less, but then, you know, you get to the point where, all right, this is the sound that makes this band, and then by the time you get to 1989 when that album comes out, that's when it's like, okay, this is 100%, you know, this is 100% this band. Then unfortunately, and then this is something that one of the things that we noticed when we first got into you guys, then the hiatus happened. So kind of tell us about how the hiatus came about.
Well, the thing was, we'd signed, things moved so quickly with us. Even from day one, everything just was a whirlwind. So we released Power from Hell. Next thing, we were approached by what was then a label called Music for Nations, who had Metallica, Anthrax, Megadeth, all the upcoming American bands, and they wanted to sign us to that label. So that's exactly what we did. We were very lucky to get that deal, which moved us on several steps up the ladder. And then within releasing that album and the success that achieved for us, we had Polygram, major label, coming around wanting to sign us for the next album, you know? And it was amazing at the time, but in hindsight, it was the beginning of the end for us the first time around, you know? They came in and wanting to throw all sorts of silly money around, and basically what we found after we signed to them was they wanted to control us in every aspect of everything we did, you know?
Mm-hmm.
From the image to the sound of the album, even down to replacing our vocalist with Steve Grimmett, you know? That was all down to major label politics.
Okay.
And not particularly what Onslaught wanted and what was good for Onslaught at the time. And it turned us from, I would have said, what was a hardcore thrash band in '86 to a very polished commercial, maybe even speed metal band for In Search of Sanity,
Yeah.
with lots of melody and very nice sounding record, which we didn't particularly want.
Right.
And I guess, I don't know, the friction started to come and everything started to kind of fall apart, even though In Search of Sanity was a very successful album.
Right.
It kind of alienated the old fans a little bit, as much as gaining us a whole new following. It didn't achieve what we wanted to do. The label wanted us to be the English Metallica,
Okay.
but they wanted that success overnight, which was never going to happen. The metal bands need development to
Yep.
evolve, and you've got to be allowed time to do that. But this label had a pop sensibility. They wanted immediate success, and it didn't work. So in the end, we split with the label, and we had a couple of offers in from very good labels, and it just didn't feel right anymore. The grunge scene was emerging, sort of 1990, I guess,
Yep.
and I don't know, things just didn't feel fun anymore. So we kind of all sat down and said, like, let's call it a day, which we did, and that was it. It ended as abruptly as it started.
Yeah, because I mean, you guys had, I mean, from '85 to '89. I mean, you're talking a 4 or 5 year period. I mean, you guys had the 3 albums come out like that, and shit like that just isn't done anymore. So I mean, just you guys basically did have like a full throttle start, and it was just one of those things. But I can understand just a label sucking the life and the fun out of it, and even after splitting with a label, I can understand just having just a really bad taste in your mouth. I can totally understand.
Yeah, it was horrible after the years of quick success what we've had, and then it all just got turned on its head completely.
Yeah. Now, of course, I guess I don't really need to ask this question, but one of the things, because Jason and I were talking about it before the show, talking about some of the past lineup and everything, and we noticed that Steve Grimmett was in the band, and so we wanted to touch on that, but you already did, so that's totally fine. So to just for clarity, Steve being in the band was more or less forced on you guys then?
Yeah. We knew nothing about it. We had a listening session with the label, where all the head guys came down to listen to how the album was progressing. Before, this was pre-mix stage, so they came down, and I sat in the room with them and our manager at the time, and they were listening back, and I could see on all their faces they really weren't happy with what they were hearing. So it listens through. There was no kind of excitement at the end. Usually you get these guys that are like really positive about stuff, and if they like it, they'll really let you know they like it. They'd be up in the air clapping and cheering. There was none of that. It was very negative and very, very down faces, so as we were coming out, our A&R manager from the label said to our manager, we have a meeting tomorrow ASAP. Like, we knew things weren't good. So hence the meeting took place next day, and they said, look guys, we're not happy with the vocals on this record. It's not going to go where we want things to go. We suggest you go and find a new singer. We have some suggestions.
Oh, I bet they did. Okay.
Yeah, so they had this meeting with our management, and I guess we carried on recording what we have to do, obviously. I guess a week or two later, our management come back in and said, we've got this guy who we think will be good for the band. He's got a name, especially in America. Let's see what he can do. We did try out a couple of other people, but I think that was just a kind of a token act from the label and our management, just to just to make us think like we had a choice in this, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, we put Steve Grimmett into a studio locally to us, and also Cy Keeler. They both went in and done the same song. I can't remember which it was. It was either In Search of Sanity or Shell Shock, maybe. They both recorded the same song, and it was a kind of shitty thing, but it was more or less a competition. I think how I seen it.
Right.
Who was going to sound the best? And Steve Grimmett came out, sounded absolutely amazing. He's got a fantastic voice.
Yeah, he does.
And you can't argue with that one little bit. And it came out, and Cy said, "Oh, my hand up." He said, "Steve's done a far better job than me." Like, so that's what happened. Steve joined the band, and Cy was pushed out, you know, which was not a nice thing.
No,
Yeah, but
that's cold, man.
Yeah, but
I mean, totally cool.
Obviously, Cy had the last laugh in the end, spending 16 years with you guys. So,
Yeah.
So what? Walk us through kind of what happened with Cy leaving the band.
Well, basically, we did those recordings that day, and Cy left with immediate effect.
Damn. So wow, it was just cut and dry. Damn.
Well, I was talking about the second stint he had with you guys up until what
2020. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, within a couple of weeks of Cy and Steve having this sing off, if you like, we were in New York recording the vocals for In Search of Sanity with Steve, you know. And we were there for about 3 months.
Wow.
Re-recording the vocals and mixing the album, you know. And all the way I was fighting with the producer all the time. It's like, look, we need to make this heavier. We need to make this heavier all the time. This is how the label wants it. So then one of the label guys flew over and he was like, yeah, this is sounding great. And I'm thinking, nah, it's not heavy enough now. But he said, I'll make the guitars heavier tomorrow. Like, he never did. It was just bullshit all the way. Like, but that's how you know. Yeah. I mean, the songs are great on the album. I love the songs. It just wasn't on floor for me. It was too melodic. It was too smooth and I don't know, commercial sounding.
So I guess kind of going off of that, do you guys ever play any of those live and try to like speed them up to what you guys wanted to do in the beginning, or?
No, we don't play too much of that live, but the intention is, as we've done a couple of tracks we've re-recorded on the Origins album.
Okay.
And the intention is to eventually re-record that whole record.
The way you wanted it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Hell
just to let the fans know how it should have been, and hopefully maybe appease some of the older fans who kind of got put off by that record.
Yeah. Because that's the funny thing is I'd be willing to bet RPM would be like, man, that's a great idea. Have at it. Just let us know when it's done.
I'm spoken with Niels about this already. So yeah, it's 100% up for that.
Yeah.
It will happen.
That is one of the strange things that seems to have kind of changed. Like it's done a complete 180 from then to now. Is like all of the labels. Of course, speaking in general terms again, all of the labels from back then, they had too many irons in the fire, and they weren't devoted to any one genre.
Right.
You know, so like you were talking about the label that you were on, I mean, they didn't really know what the hell they were talking about. It's like they think they had this certain sound in their head, some finished product that they wanted, but then they wouldn't take any input from you, the artist, and then they were like, then of course it was like this. You didn't like the way it turned out, but they fucking loved it apparently.
Yeah.
But then nowadays, artists are with labels, whether it's an actual label or hell, some of them are like, fuck it, we're just gonna start our own. Mm-hmm. But the bands who do end up with an actual full-fledged label, they're with a label that understands their clients and understands what the finished product should be. Of course, you know, one band is different than the other, but I mean, you guys now are with a heavy metal label, and they're going to understand what you guys are about and the product you're going to put out. And they're probably, like I said, they're just going to be like, all right, when are you guys starting? How long do you think it'll take? And then, probably just more or less taking a hands-off approach as far as the finished product goes, but then helping along the way. They're not going to have, they're by and large not going to have any influence over, we don't like this drum part, that solo sucks, sing this higher, sing this lower, the bass needs to be this, the bass, so
they sign bands who are experienced, who know what they're doing.
Right.
Just as much as these guys know what they're doing in selling records.
Exactly.
So why come and interfere? If I've got something I want from the label, I'll go and ask them. Like, I'll say, guys, can you recommend a mix engineer? We're looking for somebody else for this album, maybe, or an artist to do the cover. Which is, they're more than happy. They go off and find the best of the best,
Yeah.
And that's happened on 2 occasions with them. They found us great artists and they found us great engineers mixer, when we don't have that knowledge bank ourselves. But not once have they ever interfered in the music at all. Nothing, not even one comment.
And see, that's it. As far as I'm concerned, I've never been in a band and been on a label, of course. But I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's how the relationship should be. I mean, because they signed you based off on on the product. So they obviously have heard the product, they like the product, they wanted to bring you in. So let the artist make the product, and then once the product is available, you guys promote the product to, make this whole thing run.
Everybody does their job that they're supposed to do.
Everybody has
works out. So
everybody has a specialty. You guys are the music makers, they're the promoters, and everything else.
I think too, like a thing that bothered me is like even when you look back at like some of the documentaries and stuff, you say, oh well, this guy walked into the club and seen Motley Crue or whatever and said, all these guys sound great, and then they sign them and be like, but let's change this. Well, okay, why didn't you change anything? Because you just said they sounded great. That's why you signed them. Like, why are you changing stuff now?
I mean, I can see that happening in pop music because a lot of the artists don't write their own music and et cetera, et cetera. So I can see where producers get involved and labels get involved, changing things around, but not in metal music. It doesn't work.
Yeah,
that's like whenever they were talking about how the difference is with Grammys. If Queen won a Grammy, then Freddie Mercury would be on stage with the thing about songwriting, and then Beyonce wins one. There's 12 people up there with the one award. So
exactly, yeah.
So it's that, and I can see like too back when you were talking about like in the '80s, where because I know a lot of like metal bands were on labels like Columbia and stuff like that had, like you said, different genre artists, so they couldn't put, their attention more towards metal if the pop people were doing more volume. You know what I mean? So it was definitely I do like it now a lot better since it's more oriented toward the genre. So it's not like, oh well, yeah, we got Onslaught and then we got Prince on the label. Like what? It's like
right. I mean, yeah.
That's what it was kind of like when we were with Polygram. It was kind of weird. We were in a real heavy band. I think the only other rock band they had was Winger, and then it was just every pop band you could imagine.
Yeah. Even between you and Winger is still a night and day comparison.
Right.
Even at the time.
Yeah.
It still like burns me up reading some of this stuff, and they're like, they'll say Def Leppard, and they'll say, oh, the metal band. I'm like, Def Leppard ain't been metal since '82. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, it's more of a, and I think it's more like you said. It could have been along the lines of these guys got into it, and then the label changed their sound or whatever, and then now they kind of like been doing it so long, they're just kind of stuck with that's what got them to the dance. Right, you can't. I mean, if you change it now, you're probably going to lose a lot of people. So, that's always something you got to keep in the back of your mind too. Is changing your sound is going to create a less fan base more than likely. There's always going to be some people that don't like something. Of course,
it split our fan base massively. We built a new one and lost some of the old one. So it was kind of tough.
Yeah, I mean, and that's unfortunately, that's how things just go. I mean, Metallica's went through the same thing with,
Yeah,
their little, uh, I guess a few, what was it, like 10, 12 years there where they kind of made some. I say mediocre metal is what I call it, but it's like, but, but,
It was it
and
was
then
definitely
and now they've kind of gotten. I think them bringing in and Rob kind of helps too a little bit because he's a more of a he's really a dig in type bassist. You know what I mean? So I think that kind of it always amazed me watching him play. It's all spread out and it's all funny.
well, he's a ball of energy, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
and,
yeah,
kind of going back to your guys as vocalists too, and I think the thing that stuck out to me now is you guys have David, which obviously a great vocalist, but he's like one of the only ones I've noticed in the lineup that actually plays guitar as well. So that's
yeah, yeah.
y'all kind of got a bonus with him, seems like. So
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, especially with the time I was away, it was a massive help for the band. Rather than bringing somebody in, we managed to keep everything in house, and Dave just did a fucking incredible job singing and performing the songs on guitar as well. Absolutely amazing.
so is there kind of some moments where you guys do a three guitar attack at all, or just more or less swapping back and
No,
forth?
I mean Dave's gone back to just being vocalist at the moment, but
Okay.
we have mentioned it, but it's just another potential hiccup in the machine.
Right.
So I think we'll go back to what we know best at the moment. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe there'll be a
that
point in
makes
time
sense. Yeah.
where maybe Dave comes in and plays guitar on one or two songs or something. I don't know. But no plans for that at the moment.
Yeah.
It is good to have that weapon in your arsenal though if you
Yeah.
It
need to
is. Yeah, if
if
you
you
ever
need to
need it.
have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. In case of illness or something or
Absolutely.
whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
brilliant.
you can never really have too much talent because I mean you can utilize it if and when you need it as you see fit. So I mean, so
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because the funny thing was the first thing he ever did for the band was stood in as a bass player.
Oh wow.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, for one show because I bass on one or something. I can't remember. Dave stood in at a festival in Europe for one show on bass. So that was incredible. Next thing, he's vocalist in the band, and then he's playing guitar and vocals, and now he's
Nice.
back in vocals. So he's had a pretty bumpy ride so far.
Yeah, jack of all trades. There's nothing wrong
Yeah,
with that.
yeah, and he's a
And,
master of them as well.
Yeah.
oh wow.
Now, one thing I want to touch on, talking about basically because there's basically two eras of Onslaught at this point that we're talking about. One thing I want to touch on real quick, talking about the end of that first era of Onslaught is that third album, In Search of Sanity, comes out in 1989, but coming out of your relationship with that label, I mean, you guys were still doing things up until 1991 before everything kind of fell apart that first time. So was there anything that was in the works coming off of In Search of Sanity
Um,
before everything kind of came to a halt in 91? Because there's probably maybe a year and a half period after the album came out before everything kind of came to a halt.
yeah, we were still doing a lot of touring. And like I said, we did write and record probably half an album's worth of material. Um, some of it was kind of cool, some of it wasn't. Um, as you said, once you change direction, you tended to go in that direction
Yeah.
naturally. I don't know, but some of it was a bit heavier and more back to Onslaught, but some of it wasn't. So, kind of in a way, the fact that we've come back this time later, I'm glad that we didn't necessarily release some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, might be a good. I don't even have demos for it, to be honest. I'm not one to collect things. Well, I'd like to hear them now, just to hear what they're like, but I don't have copies at all, so
Yeah.
I don't even know where they are, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Now that would be interesting. Now speaking of demos, I mean, you guys had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 demos. I'm sorry, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You guys had 7 demos and 1 split album before Power from Hell even came out. Is any of that stuff even still in existence anywhere anymore that you're aware of?
Yeah, I think the guy I mentioned earlier, he released a lot of the old demos. I think only last year, and he released it on an album called Skull Crusher, which wasn't an official release. But
Okay.
he released it, and I think all the demos are on there pretty much. A lot.
Really? Okay. All right.
Yeah, unofficial, but he put it out, which was nice to have out there for the old school fans, you know. But, so yeah, they're all out there somewhere. Not that I don't have copies of them, but
Okay.
so I should be much more organised with my songwriting that I wrote really just to catalogue everything. But I don't even have a list of what songs I've ever written even. So,
Well, I mean, going back to 1982, I mean, at this point, you're talking 43 years. I mean, I'm sure some stuff's going to fall through the cracks over the decades. But all right, so then basically the band kind of stops in 91. Then what happened? What did you do? Did you like say I'm were you burned out? Were you did everything you dealt with the label, I mean, turn you into a cynic? I mean, what happened?
yeah, very much so. Well, I did go on to another project after, which was almost hit back big again. It was a kind of punk metal crossover thing, and we got involved with Maiden's management group, and things were looking really really positive.
Okay.
And this was another kind of weird thing. Um, he used to phone me up every morning when he was driving to work to the office. And say, Nigel, I'm listening to this track, and like turning one of the tracks out. He said, I'm loving this stuff, like you said. But this went on for like a month or so, and things were moving on nicely. He sent one of his guys down to meet with us and everything. And then he said, right, we'll hold a showcase so I can come down with some of the other guys, which is part of Sanctuary, and have a look at the band in the rehearsal room, basically. So we did. We thought again, it was one of these things like couldn't read the room after we played I think 5 or 6 songs.
Right. And you're like, oh shit, here we go again.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of weird. And he said, okay, let's get down to the pub and have a chat and blah blah blah. I thought, okay, this is. And then it was weird because we thought we had a great singer. He was a great singer. And he looked very much in the mold of kind of Sebastian Bach, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Sounded great. And he took me to one side in the pub, like, he said, Nigel, I'm going to pass. Like, he said, I really don't like your singer. It's like, what the fuck? Really? Yeah. He said, I don't like your singer. He said, I'm sorry, but I don't. But you've been listening to these tracks every day on the way to work.
Right.
So it must have come across as some kind of way he looked or some kind of personal thing. I don't know. He said, I don't like your singing. That's it. I'm going to pass. And it was like, fuck, everything like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But you never got a reason, just the thanks but no thanks?
Yeah, basically. No, wait, he said, I don't like your singer. I mean, this is...
Right, but yeah.
But he didn't really go into detail about why? He just,
no, I mean, this is Rod Smallwood. He's as fucking...
Well, that's true.
He's as straight as it comes. And that was it. I'm not going to argue with the guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's true. He already made up his decision. He made his
decision. Yeah, I mean, there was no way he was going to change it.
Yeah, you weren't going to convince him otherwise at that point.
No.
So,
I mean, that's when the kind of bottom fell out of my world of music, you know.
Now, was this your time in Deranged?
No, that was before Onslaught.
Deranged was before Onslaught. Okay,
yeah,
I was wondering
very much when we were kind of learning,
okay.
And then we decided to change the name of the band to Onslaught.
Okay.
Deranged was kind of Onslaught, you know.
Oh, all right, okay, because it doesn't. Because I was kind of taking a look at that, and it didn't have a timeline on when Deranged fell in
No,
the
that was
timeline
kind
of
of
everything.
that was kind of morphed into Onslaught. Then we decided to change the name, so that was the very, very first
Okay, okay,
edition, if you like. So,
okay. All right, I gotcha. All right, all right. So
but
then
yeah,
that. So
I knocked
then.
I knocked it on the head. That was it. Music's done. I'm done with music. Sold the guitars. One guitar left under the bed. Stayed there for all that time.
Okay.
So
So, well, then I guess then that brings us to approximately, what was it? Let's see. Approximately 2004. So, let's see. So 2004 rolls around. We've got Psy, we've got Jim Hinder, we have Alan Jordan, we have, who else do we have?
me.
You, of course. Yeah, now you, of course. So how did 2004 kind of come back around and Onslaught kind of reform? Because Psy did come back as the vocalist in 2004.
Yeah. Well, we'd found out that I think it's Power from Hell and the Force had been re-released. I think in
You you
2000.
you you found out?
Yeah, well, nobody told us.
Oh, Jesus.
Nobody told us, but yeah, we found out that they'd been released 2002, I believe.
Wow.
So our drummer chased it up with the label, which again goes back to the guy, my friend who didn't want us to re-record Power from Hell.
Okay.
This is the chap. He released it on one of his labels. Um, Obviously, I didn't know him then. He didn't know us, but he got the rights to do the album somehow. I don't know. And turns out he owed us a considerable amount of money. Which, once we'd been in contact, all fine. He paid us exactly what we were owed, straight up. No arguments or nothing.
Oh,
And
well, I mean,
then we moved on. Looked at lots of interest in the band. Wow, this is like, where's all this interest coming from? Metal was trying to kind of getting it back on its feet again after the grunge thing.
right.
And okay, fancy giving it a go, guys? Like, well, I was a bit skeptical at first,
Sure.
but then I thought, well, I'll give it a go and see what happens, which we did. Played a couple of festivals in Europe once people started to get wind of Onslaught were back together. Played Bloodstock Festival in the UK and signed to Candlelight Records
Okay.
for Killing Peace, which was again part of this guy's label setup, who I keep bringing back into the conversation. So he's been very good to us along the way, you know. So yeah, we were back in action. Took me 9 months to a year to get back playing again to a standard of what we needed,
Right.
and obviously find the feet with songwriting and stuff.
Yep.
So it wasn't a quick process, but came out with Killing Peace album.
Mm-hmm.
Over the moon with how that turned out. Great reviews, really well accepted album, and we were kind of back on our feet, making an Onslaught album again, not an album that had been
Somebody else's vision of an Onslaught
yeah,
album. Exactly. Yeah. That had to have felt great, honestly, coming back after so long, just being burned, like, I mean, just charred a couple of times by the industry. So I definitely understand the apprehension, but then and also makes total sense why, 04 everything kind of works itself back together, and then, leading up to, a whole 3 years later when the album comes out. So I can understand why it would have been a little bit of a slower process coming back from all of that, because just the burden of knowledge of, like, all this shit I went through, 15, 18, 20 years ago, however it was. And then, like you said, you weren't even 100% on board at first. So I can kind of understand why. Who floated the idea first?
the drummer.
Okay.
He was the one who kind of tried to get things back together again.
Okay.
But I mean, Cy was obviously keen for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I think Jim Hinder was just there for a bit of fun. He was never going to be committed to that, and he always said from day one that this isn't going to be a thing. I'm going to tour regularly because he was had a very high paid job and he was in an important position. So he said, I'm never going to kind of leave that to go back to the music industry.
Yeah, well, obviously he was only there from he was gone
Yeah,
again.
he
He was
was just
gone again in 2006. So yeah, yeah.
there.
You gotta love you gotta love the bass players.
Well, luckily, when Jim left, our current bass player Jeff Williams stepped into the band, and he's been with us ever since. So
Yeah, that's good though. Because you get you get that stability, and thankfully, with you being, Jason, like Jason said, you're the only OG at this point, but you still knew what you had with Psy coming back, and now that you had Psy, he's a known entity already, and then knowing what he can do, how he got handcuffed way back in the day. Now you knew it's like, all right, Psy, we're back. Do the gloves are off. Go ahead and do what you do. So
yeah,
Well, he had a little comfortability coming back, so that's always good to
right.
have too. So
So it's nice to especially after having the hiatus that you did to have some of the chemistry already kind of
yeah. I mean,
there by default. So
yeah, I mean, I think that really showed on the Kid and Peace album in particular. Like,
yeah.
uh, everybody had a point to prove then.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Then
yeah,
we,
because you guys, I'm sure you guys had a fucking chip on your shoulder after all that shit you had to deal with. So
yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
that's yeah. And
Sure
it's
did.
one of the reasons why I love talking to like these, especially bands that have been around as long as you guys have, is we get kind of some insight on how the behind the scenes stuff has changed because a lot of fans don't get to hear or see that,
Yeah, of course.
so
Yeah.
it it's amazing to me how, because I mean we've heard a lot of stories from how things from the 80s and early 90s to now have changed so much, so it's always
oh, it's I mean it's night and day difference between the way business was done back then and the way it's done
Yeah.
now.
Completely.
So
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
people would
it,
be horrified at some of the amounts of money that was around back in the
yeah,
80s. It was obscene, really.
yeah.
yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is like just what you've told us you've gone through. I guarantee you is probably just the tip of the iceberg of the shit that went
Oh
on back
well,
then.
yeah.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
it
Sure.
almost seems like the label was just like, "Hey, we're going to pay you this much money to control you."
Yeah,
So and it's like,
basically.
and then you being a band, just see the money at a young age, you're like, "Oh well, yeah, just pay me."
Right. Yeah. A
Yeah.
lot of bands got blinded, and I mean,
Well, yeah.
you're talking about teenagers, people in their
Mhm.
early 20s. I mean, who have never seen that kind of shit. I can't say I wouldn't have done the same
Well,
thing.
yeah, in
It's
our
kind of it,
20s. Well,
right.
yeah, I
It's the same
mean,
thing.
we're all
This
over
is
it. So,
it's the same thing that happens to these pro athletes.
hmm
Yeah.
They come out. I know things are different over there in the UK, but like these kids that come out of college and they go into the NFL, the NBA, or whatever. I mean, up until the last couple of years, these student athletes they weren't allowed to get paid.
hmm
Now that they are, so it's a little bit different. But I mean,
Yeah.
back like when Jason and I were kids, you know, all these college athletes, they didn't make money until they got to the pros. But I mean, so you're talking about teenagers coming into these professional leagues, getting these 7, 8, 9 figure salaries thrown at them. It's no wonder some of these kids can't handle it, and they end up, in jail or on drugs or anything else because now they're like, I have all the money in the world. So I mean,
Yeah.
I can't
to me,
say I
it
wouldn't
take,
have acted the same.
to me, the sports side of it takes away from it, and to me at least, because I look at it as, well, if a college kid's starting to get paid, like my college quarterback starting to get paid, well, he has a chance of making it to the NFL. Obviously, if he's getting paid in college, so who's to say these coaches aren't talking to each other? Hey, make sure you don't hurt my guy. I'm paying him a lot of money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the way I look at it because now you're not really. it's competitive still. Don't get me wrong, but it's just not as protect my guy, don't kill my guy. That's kind of, so, but I don't know. It's like it's got its pros and cons, I guess. But
It does. It totally does.
just like anything else. But as far as like your artistry goes, it's a totally different process in my opinion, because you like you said, you had the way you knew you wanted Onslaught to sound like, and then you got somebody kind of
Telling
chaining
you
you down
can't
from
do it.
that, and they're like, you can't, we want you to sound like this, and
Yeah.
and I think at this point, if I would have heard something from you guys that you were doing when you come back in '04, back in '89, if that's what you wanted to sound like then, oh man, you guys would have been cooking, man, in my opinion, because
Yeah.
to me it almost sounded like you throw this money out there, but then the labels already had their Metallica and Guns N' Roses, and they didn't want anybody to top that. You know what I mean? Because that was their money maker too.
Yeah.
So if you come out with a band like Onslaught and overpowers the Metallica, they couldn't have that because that was their money. That was their money maker. So I mean, that's the way I look at things, kind of business side of it. The way they would probably looking at it is like, we can't have this band come in and outdo my top paid band. You know what I mean? It's like it's not going to work out well for us. But I mean, but it could have. Like I said, man, because you could have. Because you could have had 2 or 3 big time bands instead of just one. But I don't know. It was just one of those things where I feel like the label was just riding their one main.
I think they got lazy.
Exactly.
Got lazy.
And I think that was the thing that we talked to with somebody before, is they felt like the same way. They felt like the labels just got lazy and didn't want to promote and didn't want to do any of that stuff. And it's like, well, I mean, what am I paying you for then? It's kind of at the point the band's got to like, hey, what am I paying you for if you're not going to promote and help me get out there? So, and that's a sad thing, because, like I said, that's one of the reasons why we're sitting here right now talking to you, because we had no idea who Onslaught was, and we should have. I mean, because
exactly.
Shame
being in a
shame we didn't have a time machine.
Exactly.
Oh
yeah.
man,
because I mean, when I listen to some of your stuff, even from back in the '80s, I'm like, oh, I could see this on Headbangers Ball at 2 a.m. I mean, I could definitely, hear that being on there. So, but I mean, as far as I know, it never was. But
we did have a few stints with Headbangers Ball. They come down and done a special show in Bristol when we headlined it. One of their home shows, and they came down and done a whole feature on it, which was cool.
Was that when Ricky was still there, or was he already gone?
It was Vanessa Warwick was doing it then.
There you go.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
So pretty much when Ricky was gone, I was kind of done with, because I feel like they done him shitty for one. And I mean, he even like, I watched him do his storytelling show for all that, and they, when you hear it, you're just kind of like, wow, dude, really? It's like, he even offered to revise it like years later and do it for free. He didn't want to charge them for it, and they said, no, we're done. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that lets you know right there that that was the downfall of MTV anyway, when they started doing all that mess. So and reality TV was kind of taking over it, and and that kind of gets, well, I mean, that kind of got away. You're a music television. Why are you showing reality shows?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess maybe that's another one of those things that we talk about with media, coverage being like, hey, this is what we're going to do now. We're done with that. So, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, and MTV kind of dug their own grave. So I mean, they did it to themselves, because I mean, they had the, as far as what they were. Of course, YouTube wasn't around then; it is now. But I mean, for the longest time, I mean, they had that market cornered. They had that market cornered.
Yeah.
So they screwed themselves, is what they did. So
going back, like I said, we talked about, you guys been around for 40 plus years, and you've went through a lot of changes with the band. What would you consider like, or attribute to the longevity of being still here today, being able to play and stuff?
Just writing good, strong music. I think that's all you can say. I mean, if you start delivering shitty albums, people aren't gonna buy them or want to come and see you.
You know,
You can't keep living off your legacy, which is I know I never look backwards really. I know we've kind of gone a little bit retro with Origins, but there was an anniversary to celebrate and
Sure.
a great moment for marketing. But generally, everything is positively looking forward to the next album, making sure that album is as good, if not better, than the last one. That's the kind of way we like to work on things.
I guess that would bring up a question too. Have you guys already got some stuff in the pocket for a new album? Or
started work on it. I say this many times. I'm not great at multitasking. So until one album is complete and out in the stores or out in the universe, I can't physically concentrate on the next one.
Sure. No, that makes sense. It does. Everything flows linear, so that makes sense.
Once that one's done and dusted and put to bed, I can move it. But I've got the album title, all the song titles are in place, loads and loads of riffs, loads of vocal ideas. It's just kind of piecing it all together. Next is the next stage. But once we come to May, I can start really concentrating on the next record. So Wayne's got loads of ideas as well. So we're hoping it's going to be a pretty quick turnaround. I'm sure Wayne makes one a quick turnaround for the next studio album too. So.
Okay. Well, so here's another question. Like, I didn't realize this was a lot different with bands too. So, did you guys, when you're recording, are you guys in the studio together, or do you just do your parts separate and then put it all together? Or?
No, I do it all separately. What I'll do, since the days of In Search of Sanity, which costs much more than a very big mansion to make, we keep costs extremely low nowadays. So what I'll do, how we worked and always worked, I will record all the guitars at home for guides for the drummer, and then send all the guitar parts, finished songs of finished songs for him in the studio to play to. So he's playing to perfect guitar tracks, not just demo tracks. He's playing to the absolute perfect guitar, so his timing is going to be impeccable.
Nice.
And that's what we do. Then we get his tracks done. Then it comes back to me. We lock all the guitars up properly, make any changes once his tracks are done. Bass guitar next, and then vocals. It's very, very simple, very cost-effective process that we use. And we use most of our money for recording the drums and the final mixes. We can do bass vocal, bass solos, guitar parts, any kind of smaller production bits, all at home in our studios at home.
Nice.
And then everything goes out to the final mix. Vocals are done in a real studio as such. So yeah, it's I mean we're bringing albums in it at like 30th, 40th of the cost of what we used to, and it sounds great. I mean, it's the guys at the end who are mixing the albums are the ones who are really bringing the magic. We give the best performances we can give, and they make those performances sound as they do incredible.
Yeah, and probably bringing it in cheaper and probably faster too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I mean, I think we're turning the album around in maybe a month now.
Oh,
that's faster than I would have expected. That's really fast.
Whereas in Search of Sanity, it took like 9 months, a year at least.
Yeah.
Madness.
It's always amazing to me. Like a lot of bands we talk to do these things so differently. It's just kind of crazy how it's just what works for one band doesn't work for another, obviously. But
of course. I think ours is a kind of strange way of doing things, but it really works.
Like I say, if it works for you, obviously it does. I mean, from the sounds of some of the records that, of course, we've heard. So
the basis of the song are the drum tracks. So if the drummer's playing along the perfect guitar tracks rather than just rough guide demo tracks of guitar, you're gonna get the best tracks out of him for the drums.
Well, yeah, because a demo track may not even sound exactly like the final thing. May speed something up here, take a note out here. So yeah, I mean that it only makes sense. Be like, this is done.
Yeah.
Go. So yeah,
we've done that for the last, since we came back, since Killing Peace, we've done that process, and it works. So There's no need to change it.
Yes, no. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you
don't
can't
fix what's not broken, right? So,
right. Yeah, don't question the method when you can't question the results.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
So, are you the main lyricist too?
yeah. I've always wrote the lyrics from day one. Yeah, it's something I really enjoy doing. Actually,
How is your process with that? Do you like have the guitar parts playing first, or do you already have a write and then have a sound in mind when you're writing? Or
sometimes it comes either way. It depends. I'm not like I've got all the vocal track, the song titles in my head already. I'm written down. So they're obviously clicking away in my brain. Sometimes a vocal line would kick in for the chorus or something. So then, okay, that's cool. That's going to be a strong vocal line. So then I'll put a guitar part to it. Or another time, like for example, Strike Fast, Strike Hard, like you mentioned, the chorus of that, it was an old riff from way back in like 1982 that I sort of had spinning around and use that for the chorus, and then put the vocal parts in after that. So it's a chicken and egg situation with that.
right, yeah. That's cool. That's cool to know that a riff from 1982 made a 2020 album. Though.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah,
I love that. I
That
like
is
those.
awesome.
Those are cool little details. I love that shit. It's so
yeah.
awesome.
It was obviously a punky riff, but I mean it works so well in the song, like, and it sounds great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of my favorite choruses.
I always like to ask those questions because I've always wrote lyrics myself. I've never been I was in a band at 15, and then that kind of exploded. But I've always had that part of me in me, so I've always like have an idea like run through that I want to write about, and I just write it down, or do, I'll do a poem about it or whatever. But it's not being a musical person, playing instruments. I always wonder how somebody else thinks when they're actually playing something, how they go about writing. It's always interesting to me. So
Yeah. I mean, no, I love doing both. When you put it all together, it's just such a great feeling when something works, and it sounds good and stuff.
and I would imagine like just getting the reception from fans too with it. If once you get positive receptions, from that obviously makes you feel wonderful too. It's like
Yeah. I mean,
it's
that's
like
always the most nervous point ever is when the comes out and the reviews are coming. I don't want to read these reviews, but I have to. Like,
Right. Yeah.
Well, it was funny because the band we had interviewed, I think last week, was just last week when we interviewed the band. They just had their debut album out, but the song that I thought was my favorite on the album, nobody likes it. Like none of their fans like, I don't like that song. I was like, well, that's my favorite. That's my favorite
Yeah.
song. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
So
it takes all sorts. So
yeah,
That's why bands are like, we're gonna write this for us,
Well,
and
yeah.
then people can like it or love it when it comes out. So yeah.
Exactly.
But it's funny, it's like a lot of times you'll think, oh, well, this is the hit, we're going to put it out first. And then people's like, nah, man, you should have did that song that you didn't even release.
Right. Oh yeah. That always happens.
But I always find that amusing because,
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, you can't write for everyone because everybody, we've said this many times from a music perspective, as a fan perspective, is every fan is going to hear something different in the song that resonates with them.
Yep.
And we always said, what I hear and what Chris hears could be two totally different things as far as what we think the song is about too. So I always like to, if there's something like that catches me and I get to interview a band, I always try to ask that. I was like, what was your thought process in the writing of this song? Because this is what I kind of took from it, but and it may not, and it's probably never. I think I've only been right like one time. The whole time we've done this show,
Yeah.
I think somebody's like, "Yeah, that's exactly what it's about." I'm like, "Oh wow, I'm right once." So, but
well, the messed up thing is I can't remember the name of I can't remember the band we were talking to. It was actually relatively recently though, but we were talking about a particular song, and you and I were both like, "Well, this is what I thought, and this is what I thought," and then I can't remember. I wish I could remember who it was, but the person we were talking to, they were like, "Yeah, I never even thought of that."
yeah, it was like, it wasn't even on my mind.
Yeah, they were like, "No, I never thought about that at all." So
it's crazy.
but again, that's why this art is is so cool.
Yeah, it is, and like I said, of course, hearing it on a CD or album or whatever you listen to it on, and then seeing it live is totally different too. Like, I mean, because
Yeah.
I always love the live aspects of things because mainly because it's more raw and it's even though you have a I guess line a can I say, the playlist in mind and how you're going to do these things and blah 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 blah. But I mean, things can change on the moment. We've seen that happen live too, where something kind of get mishaps and stuff like that. And it makes it, to me though, it makes it for a unique show. And I don't knock a band for making a mistake because I think that makes the show that you're doing for me unique. You know what I mean? So nobody else is going to see that other than just me, So we've seen it with Testament. We bring that up a lot. Where Chuck Billy was I want to say it was Over the Wall.
It was Over the Wall.
Yeah. So and then he missed his cue to start singing. So and then he was just like, and he looked at them going, "I know what I'm doing." Like,
Yeah, we got a few of those.
But yeah, I thought it was kind of funny. But like I said,
we're all human.
Exactly. But you wouldn't have got that anywhere, And it was funny how they kind of like laughed at and played it off. So you always have that memory, with you when you do things, which is going to lead up to the next question we always like to ask is you've been in the band for 40 years, so I know you've got some story from a live show or something that has stuck with you over these years that was either wild or crazy or positive. It doesn't matter. We just like to hear the road stories sometimes. So.
Yeah, lots I can't tell you.
Oh man, damn it!
The funniest one that I've always got to tell, and it sticks in my mind forever, and it makes me laugh, was when we were on tour with Motorhead in '86 or '87. We were in Denmark, I believe. We were all sat in the bar late, like 3, 4 in the morning. There was a few of us guys, and I think there was Phil, Wurzel, and Filthy Taylor sat down in the bar, obviously extremely drunk by then. And you're at a ding, and the lift door comes open. Out walks Lemmy in a pair of paisley pajamas, slippers, and a bed gown, dressing gown. And we were all extremely drunk, and everybody burst into laughter, crying with laughter. It was so funny seeing Lemmy dressed like this.
Yeah, that would be something burned into my memory too. Probably.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable. He looked at us all. He said, "Fuck off, you cunts."
Hell yeah!
He's probably like, this never happened. So,
yeah, it was brilliant. I'll never forget it. We were just crying, all of us. We couldn't stop laughing for ages.
That's great. Oh, so I guess that kind of brings it back. Since you brought that up, is there? So out of the upcoming album, you did some covers on there. Is there bands, like a lot of the bands on there that you guys actually toured with, or?
Motorhead, obviously.
I know that.
Played with Judas Priest on festival. Played with Discharge at shows. Exploited, GBH. Played with all those. Who else was on? Never played with the Sex Pistols, obviously, or Killing Joke. Never played with the UK subs either. So there's a few we haven't, but a lot we have played with over the years, especially now. The festivals are getting kind of mixed up with a lot of bands and as well. So.
I think that's kind of cool too. You actually get to cover some songs that the bands you actually played with. That's actually probably something a lot of people can't say. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. I mean, I've asked some of the guys in some of the bands if they're cool with it, and they obviously said yes, which was nice.
Yeah, because I think that would be that way too. I'd be like, oh yeah, because I'd want to hear a different take on what you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it'd be kind of cool to hear something, somebody doing a different take on a song that you wrote. So so is there any, I guess, Onslaught covers out there that you know of, or that somebody else may have done?
That's a great question.
There's been quite a few.
Really? Okay.
There's the Brazilian band called Ruinas, who's done a fair few covers of ours. They're the Brazilian thrash metal band. Um, I don't know if there's any sort of real high profile bands who's done anything as such. Um, but, I mean, we keep getting sent through covers of sort of more underground bands doing stuff, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
we're having an influence on their careers as well, so it's no different to doing what we've done.
Yeah. You guys with the career you guys have had, you'll have somebody doing a cover on their 40th anniversary, re-recording at some point somewhere down the line. And that'll be well deserved, well earned, well deserved.
Yeah.
For sure. One thing I noticed before we went on air too that I wanted to ask you about. This is going back to some of the past lineup. Now, let me find it. Hang on. Now, back in 83 and 84, you had Paul and Roger Davies in the band on bass and vocals respectively.
Yeah.
Now, moving ahead to I had it. Where'd it go? Oh yeah. Now moving ahead to 20. Hold on. I had it. Where the hell did it go? Okay, there it is. Moving ahead to 2008, you had Andy Davies in the band.
Yeah.
Then after him, you had Ian Davies in the band. By any of the chance, are they all family?
No, I never even thought of that.
Okay. Okay.
Never even noticed, but no, none of them were related.
Wow,
Okay.
that's crazy. None of them. That's even crazy.
Because that would have been cool as hell if years down the line you would have had like some sons or brothers or something in the band or something like that. That would have been cool as hell.
I never knew that.
So I guess that name Davies is kind of like our Smith and Jones is over here. I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
It's kind of like a pretty common name over there.
Yeah, yeah. But no, I never realised that. Very cool.
Oh shit! Okay. Well, that's cool. I pointed out something new, so that's neat.
So I think it's pretty cool too that you guys are putting out a cover of War Pigs at the time that Black Sabbath is kind of doing in their final show. Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah, I thought that was kind of a good time in there that kind of came out right at the time that they're going to be doing their last show. And I guess they're saying Ozzy's going to do it from like a throne now, which is kind of
I heard about that. So that'll be interesting. So
yeah, I think I can't see him doing too much. To be honest, he's not that well.
Yeah. And I think when we were talking to Ricky Rackman about this before, he kind of said that he don't want Ozzy to be like in a chair or anything like that because to him that's not Ozzy. He kind of wants to remember Ozzy as being, the person that kind of creeps across stages,
jumping around on stage.
Yeah.
I can understand Ricky's perspective because I mean this is going to be some people's lasting memory of Ozzy, because a lot of people don't have the memories of Ozzy like the three of us do. So for a lot of people, this is going to be like their lasting impression. But at the same time, it's like Sharon said, Ozzy didn't get a chance to say goodbye. So that's what this is going to be for him. So I can understand the closure aspect of it, but I can also understand kind of Ricky's perspective on it too. But I'm sure us being over here in the United States, you're over there in the UK, Nige, but obviously Ozzy is, he's a global name at this point. He's been an icon for decades. But us being over in the United States, I'm sure we don't understand the scale of the what is it? Iconicism? I don't know.
Yeah.
The iconicism and the impact that but not just Ozzy, of course, Black Sabbath, as a whole, because I mean they're celebrating them too. But just the impact and the icons that they are over there. I'm sure we have no idea over here in the U.S. the scope of how much of an impact they made over there for guys like you.
Oh yeah, I mean a massive one, especially Sabbath, and a big influence, especially as we'd sort of grown into metal more. Sabbath were immense.
Yeah.
And to see Ozzy doing what he did. I mean, I was not a massive fan of his solo stuff as such. I'm more of a Sabbath fan than an Ozzy solo
Okay.
stuff. But I mean, it was amazing how the levels he hit. You know, it was incredible.
Yeah. All right. All right. You're okay. This wasn't even on my radar until just now, but we've touched base on this a couple times before, and I want to get your take on this because you're from the UK. You kind of are influenced and kind of grew up on Black Sabbath. These people who talk about Ozzy, because being more of a Black Sabbath fan. Of course, when he got fired, he broke out on his own. We all know that. But you've got these people who have said that the only reason why Ozzy made it as a solo artist is because of the guitar players that the talent that was around him. Jason and we've talked about this before a couple times, and we are both of the opinion that can go for anybody because a band is the sum of its parts, and any band that's had any sort of career is not because of one person, whether it be the singer, drummer, guitar player, or whatever. So these people who have their panties in a wad about Ozzy, like, I don't know why everyone is so high on Ozzy, because if it wasn't for the guitar players he had, Ozzy wouldn't have been shit. What's your take on that whole thing? What's your perspective on that?
I've never even looked at it that way, to be honest. I've just seen Ozzy and his band as exactly they are. I've never thought, it's because of J.T. Lee or Randy Rhoads or whoever. I've just seen it, as you say, it's a band of the sum of its parts. He's always had great drummers, great bass players, and great guitarists. And they have delivered a lot of great songs. So.
See, that's exactly where we've been at. So I just don't understand it.
But you could have that same perspective. I mean, they could have that same perspective about bands like Megadeth, because luckily Dave Mustaine's had great guitar players to kind of back him up. So
I can see it about Yngwie probably, but not about anybody.
Oh no, we brought up Yngwie.
Yngwie, I tell you yourself how great he is. So.
Oh yeah, he has no problem telling you how good he is. Yeah.
The bad thing, he is a great guitar player.
Oh, he's a stellar guitar player. But
can I take 2 seconds, please? I need to plug my laptop in. I need to get a charger.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
My battery is going to go any second.
Yeah, no, totally fine. Totally fine.
Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, you're good, man. Good. You're totally good. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like we say about that, you can actually do that with a lot of different bands.
Yeah, you
doesn't have to be with
can.
just Ozzy. So, I mean,
Yeah.
But to me, Ozzy has one of those iconic voices.
He does.
That, it's not. It's a rare voice. I mean,
it is.
Just like we say about people's distinct guitar playing or distinct drumming or anything like that. I mean,
Yeah.
Just like when I was talking about Motorhead could hit a couple of riffs, and I'm like, oh, that's Motorhead.
Mm-hmm. Well,
of course, Lemmy had that. It wasn't. I never thought of Lemmy as this great vocalist, but his vocals matched what they were doing musically.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean,
it was a perfect fit.
Yeah, because you don't have to be a stellar hit 20 high notes vocalist to be a great metal band in a great metal band. So,
no, you don't. Yeah.
All right, we're back.
Yeah, no problem. Hell, if we had a dollar for the amount of potential technical difficulties or equipment issues that we would have or have had, we'd have a pretty decent amount of money. So yeah, no, don't feel bad.
We're actually some storms are actually going to move in through here today, and I was actually hoping that we got through this before they did, because that could kind of be a internet's can go in and out with that going on.
Yeah.
Luckily, it's held off long enough for us to get through this, because we're getting close to winding down anyway. So but yeah, so like I was telling him like before, is I think Ozzy himself had like one of those iconic voices where you could pick it out in a crowd. So I think he would have been pretty, successful no matter who
Yeah.
he had
Yeah.
behind it, just because of that.
I mean, you don't have to be the best at your craft to be successful. That's the
Yeah.
thing. I mean,
Hmm.
there's a million guitarists who are
Yeah.
amazing, who never make anything in music.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think the thing with like that, I always wondered that like for a long time. I'm just like, how will we have all these music and like no repetitive chords and stuff? Because I mean, you can only go so many times. But and I
exactly.
think that's probably why they kind of invented those pedals and stuff like that, is to create different sounds with the guitars that you probably wouldn't normally get with just playing with just a regular amp and a whammy bar. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still fucking around with tones even after all these years. I'm still not.
Yeah.
Man, I've seen. I don't remember
So-
who it was. I watched here recently, and they had like. I'm just like, dude, I don't see how he keeps up with like all the pedals he had. And he was just going up, like walking up, tapping, walking up, tapping, walking. I was like, man, you spend more time tap dancing than you are playing. So, I would be so confused.
I know. I used to have a guitar system that was the size of a kitchen freezer,
Oh wow!
and it was like thousands and thousands of pounds worth of stuff. And now I got a tiny little box about that big. It's like,
Yeah, it's crazy how they.
it does exactly the same job. It's
Exactly.
incredible.
Yeah,
Right.
it's crazy how they combine all that into such a small. That's just wild how technology has came that far. Where
Yeah,
you know,
I can just take it onto a plane in a hand luggage now. It's incredible.
yeah, you don't have to like
That's-
lug it
that-
or lug some big old amp around and stuff.
Yeah.
It's,
But that's good because now I mean whenever inspiration strikes, you can do
Yeah.
something with it. You can either write it down somewhere. I mean, you can log it in a laptop, or you can like even all right,
pull it out on
all
the
right, shit,
bus or
all right.
whatever.
I got a riff in my head. You just try to bust it out because okay, that sounds good. I'm gonna write that down. So I mean, that's it's definitely a kind of a necessary evil technology sometimes, but it's one of those things where it's like now it's
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
it absolutely is. Yeah.
Especially with the likes of Spotify. Me and Jeff, our bassist, were talking about it yesterday. And he said, "Have you got Spotify?" I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Why have you got that?" Like, it's because it's our enemy. I said, "It may be our enemy, but it's also our advocate at the same time."
Well,
because we wouldn't be sitting here talking
Exactly.
to you now without that. So,
Exactly,
I mean, because
so-
we would have never, because let me tell you, like, there's not a lot of promotion for metal, in the States as far
There's
as
not.
like radio play or anything like that, because we don't have that unless you're Metallica or a Pantera or Megadeth or somebody with a bigger name, unfortunately we're probably not going to hear about it,
But even-
as far
but-
through the radio anyway.
but-
I mean,
as far as the radio goes, those bands, if they're on a radio station, they're getting lost in. Even those bands are getting lost in the shuffle with some of this modern music. Which some of it's fine. We've had some of it's actually really good. We've had some modern metal bands on the show, but I mean, as far as overall promotion, if we get anything here, it's all domestic. So I mean, bands like you guys over there. The funny thing is, ever since we started the show, we're coming up on our 5-year anniversary. There are bands that I didn't listen to at the time, like you guys, Rage, Destruction. Who else am I thinking of? But anyway, Brainstorm, same thing. Bands that all 4 of those bands, like you guys have been around for 40 years. Rage has 26 albums put out. Brainstorm's been around since 1989. Destruction's been around almost as long. So I mean, I am glad I'm fans of these bands now, you guys included. I'm glad that I am, but I'm pissed off that I didn't have the ability.
Sooner, yeah.
Right, I'm pissed off that I didn't have the ability to listen to you guys and stuff like that sooner. It does upset me.
The only other chance we would have had was probably going down a YouTube rabbit hole at some point and probably coming across something. But
yeah, so it's frustrating because I mean the amount of music that we've discovered over the last 4.5 years probably pales in comparison to the stuff that we probably still haven't listened to yet. So that's frustrating because pop music over here and even over there, I'm sure pop music is rammed down your throat like it is over here. So I mean, you know, I mean, you just get inundated with it. So when you discover something like we did with you guys, coming to find out that when we discovered you guys, it was like we've missed your entire career.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Now we're having to play catch up.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating for us, as you can imagine, to not be reaching the potential audiences that
Right.
we could be.
So
And
yeah,
it was
so
crazy
we
because
do.
we had a guest on the show and we were talking about this, and he said, "Man, it's funny you bring that up because I just found out about Onslaught myself." And I was just like, wow. So, I mean, so it's still kind of, you guys are still being discovered. So that's a good thing, I guess, that you guys are still being discovered. But it's also kind of like frustrating that we didn't, we had no idea,
Right.
About a great band for, 35, 40 years. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
It's another reason to keep turning out high quality music, because
Yeah.
if you guys have discovered it, you're going to go backwards and look at the rest. And if we can,
And I have.
fans, everybody's going to keep doing that. Hopefully.
And I have. I've listened to.
Oh, yeah.
I've listened to the catalog in its entirety more than once. So absolutely.
There's
But it's just another example of what we just talked about a couple minutes ago with technology. If it wasn't, because trust me, I have Spotify. So does Jason. I pay for it. But I mean, what I'm paying for, I mean, it's literally a drop in the bucket of the amount of money that the app makes that they're not filtering out to you guys.
Right.
We've talked about it before on the show how we're not huge fans of Spotify's business practice, but at the same time, they are a necessary evil nowadays. Because I mean, hell, we have content that we're putting out on Spotify too. If we were to ever see anything that amounts to actual money, it'll be a miracle.
Yeah.
But I mean, so but we're under no delusions of that. But I mean, for bands, for bands who are actually putting out the music that we're paying for, I mean, you guys are getting shafted, and we know it. But at the same time, without it, who would we have missed out on?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
I mean, we've just got to use it as a tool to expand our audience. That's it. What we can do.
So this is something that happens a lot over here. I'm not sure, like, I think we've asked this before in another country, being in a different country, but as far as like venues in the UK, do they require like a percentage of merch or anything like that when y'all play? Or
I will refuse to play that. Well, I will refuse to sell merch. We won't sell merch to anybody taking commissions.
There you go.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I agree because I always looked at it as like you're selling alcohol and stuff like that. Then I mean, you're not giving the band a cut of that. So I mean, it's like,
No, I mean, if a festival in advance tells us. I mean, some of the festivals take like 35%.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So we just want to take merch. So, well, where's your merch? Oh, I didn't bother bringing any. You charge too much commission.
Right. Exactly.
No, good for you. I mean, more bands, and we have heard of a couple examples of people like we're not bringing any, or
we'll sell it in the parking lot.
We're going to sell it in the parking lot after the show.
Exactly. I mean, we're obviously carrying it, but we'll sell it in the parking lot. After,
yeah, good. Yeah, no, that's
good for you.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I think all bands should take a stand on that.
Yeah. I've had an online debate about this before, and people say, "Yeah, great." So if everybody did it, they'd soon stop. That was
Yep. So every time I hear about an artist doing that, I'm like, I'm on 100% on their side. Because don't get me wrong, that's one of the I love snagging a shirt, or at every show I go to, I love snagging a shirt. But at the same time, if I go to a show and come to find out that that's why there aren't any, be like, hey, I can't. Shit, I'm not mad.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only way bands can make money now from live shows and merchandise. So you can't start taking that away from us as well.
Right,
exactly. So so
I mean,
good for you guys for taking that
stand. Like I said, you're not making it on like Spotify is not paying you guys a salary for sure. So I mean, then why would you go into another place and take another cut out of what you're doing? You're out of your creativity. It's just bullshit, man. I don't get that. I mean, you don't go to the movie and expect the actor to take a pay cut to be in a movie. I'm gonna put you in this movie with Harrison. I'm gonna put you in a movie with Harrison Ford, but you can't do it. But I'm gonna take 20% because I put you in a movie with Harrison Ford. No, that's not how that works. It's like,
I mean, I know certain bands will whack up the merch prices to compensate, which is again it's impacting on the fans then, and that's
You're screwing the wrong people.
yeah. No, that's not for us.
Yeah, I would much, and that's the thing. I would much rather just go to the show and go home and not buy a shirt than a band feel like that they have to do that. They have to compensate because no, take that stand because eventually they'll feel it.
I mean, if any venues try it, we told our agents in advance, but if any do try it, we'll just make an announcement on stage. We're not selling merch in this venue tonight because if you want merch, we'll see you outside with our setup. So
yeah, and that's another thing is like when you call a venue out like that. I mean that'll.
Oh yeah.
That's a nice kick in the nuts right there. So
exactly what we do. So people know that you're going to sell it outside, and the venue knows damn well that.
Up front that you're not
right. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
It'd be interesting to know if some of these, like we just had one opened here in Nashville called the Pinnacle, which is sponsored by the Pinnacle Bank. So why would you need to take any? You're a sponsored venue already, so why would you need to take any cuts for anything?
No, you don't. Yeah, you don't need the money exactly.
It's just greedy. That's what.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like to me, it's like if you do not need that for your operation to survive, then why charge it? That doesn't make any sense to me. So
that's what
the bad thing is they're probably already making bukus of money, before they even charge you guys anything. So especially when you have to pay $6 for water. I mean, that's what.
No shit. Yeah,
it's like if you're paying $6 for water and $15 for beer, you're probably doing all right. So
yeah, I think so.
considering I can go to Sam's Club and buy a case of water for $4.
Well, yeah, exactly. So that's and they don't have. I mean, most of the time it's that liquid death. Don't get me wrong, but I mean it's still. You're paying for a name. You're not paying for. I mean, water's water at that point. So.
Yeah, because Liquid Death's whole fucking advertising thing is relaxed. It's just water. I mean,
yeah. Well, then why are you charging $6 for it?
Yeah, so I mean that's their whole fucking ad campaign. Ridiculous.
All right, man. So we kind of getting ready to close this thing out. So I just kind of wanted to touch base again about the upcoming. Album, of course. You say it was a double album, correct? This one's a double album.
Yes, it is.
It'll be out on vinyl, I think, digipack and double CD as well. So.
Oh, nice. Okay, is that available through you guys' website or through the record label?
Or? Through the label, probably. I mean, we found out that shipping costs get too much at the moment, especially from where we are in England. Our whole system's chaos and corrupt and.
Yeah.
Oh well, good to know that we're not the only country.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, we tend not to ship anything in and out of England because since we left the European Union, things have just fallen apart even more. So it's
right. Yeah.
So it's just better to hire somebody in like the States to actually print and do it all, or.
Yeah, well, I think we've got merch. Company there. Obviously, the label have got a base in the US. So then stuff comes out of England, stuff comes out of Germany. So, I mean, we should be covered pretty much everywhere for everybody to get the album freely.
Yeah, that's kind of. So is it cost just as much to ship to you guys as it does out, or?
No, I don't think so. It's
just out. Really?
Yeah, they start charging you taxes, and then they'll open it to see what's inside, and then they'll put extra tax on it to ship it out of the country.
Oh, good Lord. Jesus.
Yeah, it's impossible. I mean,
crazy, dude.
To leave England now to go on tour, they will charge you VAT before you've even sold a shirt. So they don't know how much you're going to charge, but they will charge you, say you're taking 1,000 shirts, they'll charge you 20% VAT on 1,000 shirts before you even sold them.
So you're already taking a cut before you ever hit the road, man. That's crazy.
So we've had to get our merch made in mainland Europe now, so we don't get these costs. It's terrible. That's unbelievable.
Damn it, man.
Well, maybe like when a lot of other people do that, then they'll start losing money and realize, okay, we got to change something.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately that's the thing is they have to wind up losing money before they change
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. That's the problem. But
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of irritating, dude. It's just
Yeah, it is, man. That's shit. That's rough. That is at 20. I mean, 20% in the hole, but just off
right
the
out the
jump.
gate.
My
Yeah.
God.
So then you have to raise it, like you said. Then you probably have to raise the price
Yeah.
of the shirt to what you would normally want to charge just to get break even. So off of that part.
yeah, it's criminal. Yeah, so
It should be.
Well, taxes in general are criminal. So
Well, yeah, that's
So
we know
we have to negotiate every issue before we're faced with such charges, you know. So we like I said, we get it made in Europe, or we get it made in the US, or get it made in South America, or wherever. So
yeah.
we don't encounter these problems with unwanted tax.
that's crazy.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
But yep. Origins of Aggression double album, the 40th anniversary celebration of Power from Hell, and some good covers coming out. May 23rd on Reigning Phoenix Music. It'll be on their website. So
Is
and
there
it'll be on
gonna
Spotify. So
is there going to be more singles leading up to the release or?
Yeah, I think there's going to be another two possibly.
Okay.
nice.
We'll be on the lookout for that too. I create a playlist for like new music that drops too, so every week for people to try to discover new bands. So, so hopefully that'll come out and I'll add that to that too. So,
Awesome, thank you.
yeah, I actually had the Iron Fist on there this week. I still just like I like the Motorhead version, but I've been jamming. I jammed that thing out already 3 times already. So, it's
Awesome.
good stuff, dude.
And when we
Oh wow. I lost him.
well, he may have done. There he goes. I was gonna say he probably did one of the.
Yeah.
He hit that like he probably did the same thing I did a few weeks ago and actually just closed the entire window. Don't feel bad, Nige. I actually did the same thing a few weeks ago. I just completely shut the whole thing down on accident. So yeah, don't feel bad. But I was actually just about to say when the next time we get back to doing our regular format on this show, it looking like it might be this next week. During our theme of the week segment, one of your songs was going to be on it. So,
Awesome, thank you.
yeah,
I think I had it on mine too, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
yeah. So, we've definitely come to be big fans of yours in the last since 2020 when the album
5 years.
came out. So in the last 5 years since we discovered you guys, unfortunately we were late to the party, but it's kind of one of those things where it's better late than never. And thankfully we do have an outlet like Spotify to where we can play catch up because.
And I actually bought the Generation Antichrist, so on CD.
So we've done our best to make up for the lost time, and like I say, we've told the story about how we've discovered you guys many times, and we become big fans, and there's been a lot of our theme of the week playlist that your guys' music has ended up on, and will probably continue to do so moving forward. So. But it's been a pleasure and a huge honor to finally get to talk to you.
Not many people get to talk to the inspiration for the actual show. So it's kind of good to actually.
That's so cool. That's really cool. Thank you.
And like I said, when we did this at the time, there was no other podcast kind of doing what we do. It's like putting out. Just basically talking about newer bands, or we still cover a lot of the other stuff, but we try to promote more of the bands that a lot of people haven't heard of. And I usually go by like their followings and stuff on medias and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, they don't have a big following, so maybe we can help, put some numbers on there, and we're not widely popular, but I mean, we, if I put 50 people, 50 people, are you guys, if I put you guys in 50 playlists of people, then, I feel like I'm doing something. So
Awesome.
that's the main thing is just to try to get people more noticed.
Eyes and
These
ears.
bands, these bands more noticed by people that otherwise probably wouldn't even know about it. So I mean, because
100%.
we've discovered a lot on doing this too, as far as like
Mhm.
what where to pull stuff from and what to what websites to look at for upcoming music, and luckily now we've gotten the relationship with some of the labels where they just send us stuff now, which is
Yeah.
great, because I mean we got so much stuff I'm way behind, so it's
Me too. Yeah.
I'm having to like download it, and I'm like, man, I gotta have time to listen to stuff now. It's like
Yeah.
which is a great problem to have. I'm never going to turn down new music. So
Never. Never.
Naj, man, we really do greatly appreciate you taking the time out to chat with us, man. And like I said, we being the inspiration for the show and we wanted to learn more about Onslaught's journey, and
Yeah.
The longevity is obviously a big thing. It's most bands. Some bands don't make it 20, much less 40. So it's
Right. Yeah.
it's a big deal, man. So, like I said, keep up everything, and we look forward to hearing some new stuff soon, and we'll spin this new one double album in the meantime, and
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
And then we'll speak again soon.
Oh man, we'd love to.
Maybe we'll get
We'd
some of
love
the
to.
other guys on at some point too, and,
Yeah.
chat with them too. So, man,
Awesome. It's been a pleasure, guys.
yeah,
Yep.
man, appreciate it,
Pleasure's
Naj,
been
man.
ours.
You have a good night, man.
And you. Take care, and we'll speak very soon.
Sounds
Yes,
like
sir.
a plan,
We
Nige.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
You
Yep,
too, man.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Nige Rocket from, as Dana puts it, the Almighty Onslaught.
Almighty Onslaught, yeah. So,
The Almighty Onslaught.
like I said, man,
I
it's just
I got
goosebumps.
I got goosebumps right there at the end and everything, man. It's just
well, like I said, there's not many chances you're going to have to interview your inspiration for putting a show on. So I mean,
yeah.
that means more to me than anything. I'm sure it does to you.
It does.
As far as that, putting that in perspective is just kind of mind blowing to actually get to do that. If you had told me 5 years ago, hey, at some point you'll get to interview Onslaught, yeah, I mean, whatever.
Right.
And we just made it happen. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a big deal.
Check.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal to us, man. Whether it is to anybody else or not, it's But I'm sure many of outlets have interviewed Onslaught at some point, but like I said, they probably did not start their podcast because of Onslaught. So
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But yeah, if I mean, you guys have let's see the only thing that's available right now to listen to off the upcoming double album is
the
that
Iron Fist, yeah.
the Iron Fist Motorhead cover, which is very well done. So check that out.
It is.
But when the new album comes out, Origins of Aggression comes out on May 23rd, you guys should check that out. It is a reimagined, re-recorded look about their first three albums, like we talked about.
Yeah.
So, if you've never listened to Onslaught, and especially if you're a thrash guy like us, or a thrash person, sorry, if you're well, I mean, gotta be fair. I mean, we've been to thrash shows before. There's plenty of females there, so. If you're a thrash fan and you don't know who Onslaught are, don't feel bad because it took us long enough to discover them too. But it's never too late. So if you've never listened to Onslaught, take the time to do so. I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Oh, not at all. Now that that's been said, I guess we can try to promote our stuff here. So you can check out our 24/7 radio station as always at stream.trulyradio247.com/8008/stream. And you can also find us on all of our socials.
Yep. Our Facebook group, Facebook page, on X, Instagram, Twitch, Rumble, YouTube, TikTok, our Spotify. Technically, we have two Spotifys. Jason has his, I have mine. And then, so we've basically got two. And then email us at metalheadsuniteusa@gmail.com. So,
mine only has the playlist, the weekly playlist on it. Well, actually, it has that and the actual interviews.
And the interviews, and then I've got the theme of the week covered. So
yeah. So, but it's both, both under the Metalheads Unite. You can find those there.
Yep.
If you just search Metalheads Unite under playlist or podcast or whatever, it'll all pop up there for you. So
Yep.
even mine's under my name, it still pops up because the title of the playlist is Metalheads Unite.
That's right.
So whatever year and week we're on. So
That's right.
oh man, I just want to give another shout out to Curtis, man. Thanks for hooking that up. That was pretty awesome to us, man. That it meant so much to us to be able to do that. So
yeah, that's a huge thing. And like I talked about earlier on in the show, Curtis started sending stuff to us.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like we discovered C Squared music and they were like, and then we made an introduction. No, one day stuff just started showing up in our inbox, and we're like, "Oh, cool! We got people sending stuff to us," and we just started listening to it.
I think the brainstorm thing kind of set the tone there because I had mentioned, oh yeah, I remember their album in 21, and I think I did the review on that album
on Wall of Skulls, yeah.
Yeah, and I said, man, I can't wait for that. And he was like, oh, you guys want to interview him? I'm like, well, hell yeah,
yeah.
So I'm sure we will be doing business with Curtis a lot in the future. So.
Well, and the funny thing is like Angelo got us the interview with Never Obey Again too.
Yep. So
So
a lot of people, in our inbox and creating great content. I think so.
Yeah.
And Never Obey Again is blowing up too, though, man. I don't know if you follow those guys, man.
They are.
They are definitely. They almost seem like another Hexed deal with the way they're blowing up. I think Hex kind of blew up before we ever got to them. It's kind of I was kind of worried about the interview at the point. At some point, I'm like, man, they're blowing up too fast. They're probably going to blow us off. Like,
yeah.
So.
It's funny you mentioned Hexed because I've actually, because we follow them on all the social media and everything, but I actually wonder if they might be putting some new music together. It's actually
are. Yeah, I think they are.
It's been some time since the last album came out.
3 years, maybe.
I think so.
I'd have to look that up. And
see, I think
so.
But
sure, it's been pretty close to that.
But so I mean, I think it's 2022. Yeah.
And we have that album. So
yes, we do.
Signed and delivered.
Yeah. I had my hat around here somewhere.
Oh yeah, the little toboggan. Yeah.
There it is.
All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that interview.
I sure as hell did. Man.
I love this. Just the, being able to talk to somebody with that much longevity and learning the differences and how it's changed over the years, and to me, recording processes are crazy. How everybody's just so different with how they do things, and it's wild, man. So
it is.
Like I said, it's just amazing. The back end of, I think the back end of stuff, kind of amazes me more than, because you're going to see the forefront of everything with the music side and the advertising and all that, but you never hear like the backstory of why things go the way they do. So to hear those kind of like is just pretty wild. So
yep.
Of course, all the stories, I probably won't never not visualize Lemmy in
paisley pajamas. Yeah.
So,
that's hilarious.
He's probably rolling over his grave knowing that story got out. Oh man.
Well, the funny thing is Lemmy would probably be like, I don't even remember doing that.
He probably don't. Yeah.
Oh shit. Awesome.
Anyway, guys, like I said, catch us on all of our socials. Hopefully, for now, it looks like we'll be back on Friday with a regularly scheduled program unless something changes. That's why you need to follow us on our socials. Because
that's right.
That's where the announcements happen. So if you want to follow the Facebook page and not get a bunch of group notifications, that's probably the way to go. If you're down with sharing stuff in the group, join the group by all means. People share. There's bands out there that share. Shows and new music and all that stuff. So there's plenty of stuff in there, and you can always add to that. We're totally okay with that. So
no, I mean hell we encourage it. We absolutely encourage it. I mean, that's really what it's there for. I mean, we promote plenty of our stuff, but I mean, that's what it's there for.
Well, yeah, it's for the bands mostly.
Yeah.
What they want to do. So.
For the bands and for the fans.
Yeah, for the bands and for the fans. There you go. That's good. I like that. Change that to on our homepage there.
Well, hey, we can.
Yeah, actually, that may be a good T-shirt. Actually.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
March 29th, trademarked.
Yeah, there you go, trademark. Yeah.
There's video
evidence.
Video evidence of it. Yeah.
Be on the lookout on all of our socials because in a couple of weeks it'll change a little bit. We'll be at the expo, so we won't really have a show that day because we're actually doing a special interview on Friday.
Which is crazy that we were able to get that interview.
And I'm glad we're able to get that interview. That's one of the ones I really wanted. So, so it's cool to him to spread his stuff out over 2 days to make that happen. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. We'll do a live show on Friday for that interview, and then Saturday would be the whole day out there at the Rockin' Pod, kicking off with the local band Valkyrie's Fire. If you don't know about those guys, then check.
Do yourself a favor. Yeah.
Do yourself a favor. Check them out, man. We become good friends with those guys and gals and Valkyrie's Fire.
That's right. Yep. And they're kind of doing one of these too.
Yes, they are. I mean,
Yeah,
it's good to see a local band. You know, Halo Scars just announced that they're opening up for Escape the Fate. So I mean,
Which is huge for them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of local bands doing some great stuff, man.
Yeah.
So,
Good shit.
These guys have, Halo Scars have rubbed elbows with some of the greats already, man. And not even had a full length album out yet. That's what's wild. So
That's true. That's true.
So hopefully, we're going to get that this year. We'll see.
They are working on it. Yep.
Anyway, guys, hopefully we'll see you back here next Friday, regular time, 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, 11 p.m. Eastern. Just make sure to throw that out there because that's what's
11
been
Eastern.
throwing us off. So
11 Eastern, 10 Central. That's right.
there you go. Only on TBS. We start doing 05, TBS 605, 1005.
Oh God, I always wondered. I was like, why the hell do they do that? The
I don't
05.
remember. I think that was just to be different because that was,
Must have been, but yeah, they were always 5 minutes off of everything.
Yeah,
else.
of everything
I
else,
do remember that. Yeah.
All right, guys. Hopefully, we'll see you back here next week, next Friday, 10 p.m., 11 p.m. Eastern.
That's right.
Yeah, and unless something changes within the meantime, which can possibly, we still have emails out that haven't been kind of nailed down yet. So so it could happen many times. And of course, we're doing new album reviews, so we may reach out to somebody else in the meantime. So
that's true.
And actually, that's another thing is joining the page or following the page. You can see those as well. So
that's right. Our album review write-ups that we do when we don't have our regular format. That's right.
Go
We do
on the page. Yep.
That's right.
Page. Yep.
Yep.
All right, guys. Until next week, keep those horns held high. Jump in that pit anytime you can.
Have a great week, you guys.